your E and Z formats. Gonna be, and then in chapter 5, we didn't get very far into the reactions, but we made it to 5.4 basically. So know about those addition reactions that we just talked about. The energy diagrams, we just talked about that, so that's important stuff. You know, for that kind of stuff, I'd look at page 126 of the book. You can see a couple of different examples there in reaction diagrams, so that's the kind of stuff that I'll be holding you responsible for. We just started talking about carbocations, but I'll probably keep that to a minimum just because we just started talking about them. But know that a carbocation is an intermediate, for sure. Yep, that'll be good. Anything else?
I just have a question. You're talking about cycloalkanes. Why do the larger groups like to be equatorial rather than axial?
Has to do with the fact that in the equatorial position, the group is as far apart from all the other hydrogens as it can be.
Okay.
In the axial position, 3 carbons over, so if you start with your group, 1, 2, 3, there will be another hydrogen that's also axial. And these things start to get close to one another.
Okay.
But if the biggest group is equatorial, it's never going to interact with those axial hydrogens. Or other axial groups, but I'm just keeping it simple here. So if you have methyl cyclohexane, the methyl group's going to want to be equatorial. If you have, you know, isopropyl cyclohexane, the isopropyl group's going to want to be equatorial. So the equatorial position is always the most stable position for a substituent to be in. Any other questions? I'll give you just a couple minutes to think about it. If not, we'll close and I'll go post and go Chiefs.
You mentioned isopropyl. Can you give just a little review on how to identify and naming when to use the isopropyl at the beginning?
Yeah, so let's suppose we've got, I don't know. No, let's make it simple. Let's make it more simple. So let's take cyclohexane, put an isopropyl group out there. This is my parent, right? This is my substituent. And I know that there's 3 carbons in that substituent, so it has to be some type of propyl group. But it's actually on the number 2 carbon. It's not on the number 1 carbon, right? So we call this isopropyl because it's on the 2nd carbon. It's an isomer of the propyl group, right? So I can have propyl, right? So there's my parent, right? That's propyl, and that's isopropyl. They're the same number of carbons and hydrogens, but this is an isomer of this one. So that's where it comes up with the name isopropyl.
Thank you.
So we can have isopropyl, we can have tert-butyl, we can have sec-butyl. So all of those were kind of covered in the names. And it usually doesn't get any worse than that for most small molecules anyway. I didn't take up a quiz 4, did I? Out of chapter 4, so that'll probably be for Thursday.
Chapter 4?
Yeah, chapter 4. Turn the quiz on Thursday. We'll have some in-class group work on Thursday. Kind of cool down from the exam. What else? Make sure you've got good notes. Remember, you're allowed to have your notes. They need to be your handwritten notes. If you took them in a computer or whatever, you got to print them out. If you drew them in, you know, on your tablet or whatever. Can't have any access to the internet, but you can have your notes. You can have your model kit. Come prepared having some model kit pieces already put together. No sense in wasting time snapping things together. Usually 6 or 7 carbons is enough to do whatever you need to do. So I usually make, at least when I would go take my exams, I would just make a cyclohexane ring and snap it together and put a couple other carbons on it and just carry it in. And then I can just pull apart and do whatever I need to. I'll give you your zip grade form. Make sure you come with your ID so you have the right ID number. It will read pen. I highly recommend you don't use pen. Use pencil. Have a good eraser with you. 75 minutes. You should be done in about 40. But you got plenty of time. No sense in getting all hot and bothered about a question. If you see, if you get stuck on something, move on. Get everything that you can get done and confidently done first, and then go back and do the things that you might find a little more difficult or challenging for you. People will fall on their sword to get one problem right and then not have enough time to finish the other 10. That's just not good test-taking strategy. So if you find yourself taking more than a minute to figure out how to do it, just mark it, move on to the next one. Forget about it until you have time at the end to come back. Anything else? All right, we all have a great rest of the weekend. Enjoy the Super Bowl. Go Chiefs. Anybody in here rooting for the other team? I grew up in Oklahoma, so the Chiefs were kind of my home. They're not quite my hometown thing, but it's the closest thing there is. So hopefully they'll win. All right, you all have a good one.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah, you're welcome.